Find the error and I'll resign. Me, the engineer. Until the poor boy corrects the plan and saves the work. Under the blazing afternoon sun, the construction site throbbed with noise. The deep groan of cranes, the metallic clang of steel beams meeting, the hum of distant drills. Dust floated in the hot air, catching the light like flecks of gold. High above, skeletal towers of concrete and steel climbed toward the sky, their unfinished edges jagged against the pale blue. At one end of the site, a long wooden table stood between two very different figures. On one side, a young black boy, no more than 10, wore a pale blue T-shirt, a slightly oversized yellow hard hat that shaded his serious face, and clear safety goggles that slid just a little too low on his nose. His thin arms were sun-browned, his small hands resting on a massive sheet of blue paper, the floor plan for a penthouse suite. On the other side, a white woman in a sharp, deep blue blazer leaned forward, her blonde hair tied neatly back, silver hoops catching the sunlight. She looked every inch the confident engineer, clean, crisp, certain. On her left arm, a black armband with bold yellow lettering marked her role on site. Her manicured finger stabbed at the blueprint, and her bright smile was edged with challenge. "Find the error, and I'll resign," she'd said moments earlier, her tone light, but tinged with a kind of arrogance that made the surrounding crew glance over. The boy hadn't smiled. He hadn't even looked at her. Instead, his dark eyes swept over the fine white lines of the plan with an intensity far beyond his years. Around them, workers paused between tasks, curious. A few whispered, "What was a child doing in the middle of $1 million project?" She had expected him to squint at the drawings for a minute, shrug, maybe mumble something, and give up. But he didn't. His gaze moved with quiet precision, first tracing the outer measurements, then jumping to the intersections, comparing angles, counting window placements with his finger. The woman folded her arms, smirking. "These plans have been checked by 3 licensed architects, 4 engineers, and an AI system. There's nothing wrong with them." The boy didn't answer. His left hand anchored the corner of the paper while his right moved slowly, following a hallway that led to the penthouse's main living area. His brow furrowed. Something about the numbers in the corner bothered him. He traced the dimensions again, lips pressing into a thin line. Finally, he tapped a spot near the eastern balcony. "Here," he said quietly, his voice barely carrying over the noise of the site. The engineer leaned over, still half smiling. "That's a balcony. What about it?" He pointed to the adjoining wall. "The beam measurement here," he said, his finger landing on a small print figure. "It's wrong. If you build it like this, the load weight will crack the balcony, not this year, but in 5, maybe 6. The smirk slipped from her face. She blinked once, twice, then glanced at the number. Her eyes darted to the structural notes on the other side of the plan. She grabbed the nearest pencil and began running the calculations in her head, then on the paper. Her lips parted slightly. Behind them, 2 workers stepped closer, sensing a shift. The woman's pen slowed. She set it down. She looked at the boy like she was seeing him for the first time. "You," she started, then stopped, exhaling sharply. Her confident stance faltered. The boy just stood there, expression calm but unflinching, as though this wasn't a game to him. To him, the plan wasn't a puzzle. It was a promise of safety, of something that had to be right. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The heat pressed down. Somewhere far off, a hammer struck metal with a sharp, ringing sound. When she finally spoke, her voice was quieter, stripped of its earlier challenge. "You're correct," she said almost to herself. "That's not possible. That beam wouldn't hold." And just like that, the air between them changed. The woman straightened, but her gaze held respect now, and something else, something unsettled, because she had made a promise, and he had just made her keep it. The hum of the construction site seemed to dull, as if even the machines had caught wind of what had just happened. Workers nearby stood frozen, their gloved hands gripping tools mid-task, eyes locked on the blueprints between the boy and the engineer. The woman's pulse was hammering in her ears. She'd built her career on precision, on being the one no one could outthink. And now, under the hot glare of the afternoon sun, a boy, skin still smudged from the dust of the site, T-shirt clinging to his small frame, had pointed out a flaw her entire team had missed. "You said you'd resign," one of the workers called out, his tone cautious but loud enough to carry. Her jaw tightened. She had, and there was no taking it back. The challenge hadn't been meant to be real. It was bravado, the kind you throw out in confidence when you're certain no one can meet it. But this boy had met it. Calmly, without hesitation. The boy said nothing. He simply looked at her, waiting, as if the promise mattered more than any victory. His gaze was steady, unblinking, almost too mature for his age. It wasn't pride in his eyes, it was expectation. She leaned on the table, pressing her palms into the wood. Her mind ran through the possibilities, how to spin this, how to salvage her authority, but every excuse that came to her lips felt cheap under his quiet stare. The numbers didn't lie, and neither did he. "How did you even notice?" she finally asked, her voice softer, stripped of its earlier confidence. "I've seen it before," he said simply. "Back home, a balcony collapsed. My neighbor, she didn't make it." His words were clipped but heavy. They built it wrong. The weight of his statement hit her harder than she expected. It wasn't a lucky guess. This was lived experience etched into the lines of a boy far too young to carry it. Silence stretched. The workers shifted uncomfortably, some glancing between them, others watching with open curiosity. A few pulled closer, drawn to the tension like moths to a flame. The woman straightened, her hands leaving the table. "All right," she said finally, her voice steady. "I said I'd resign if you found an error, and you did." Gasps rippled through the crew. One of the foremen muttered, "She's serious?" She ignored them, unfastening the black armband from her blazer. The yellow letters marking her as lead engineer caught the sunlight one last time before she placed it neatly on the table beside the blueprints. Her fingers lingered on it for a moment, then withdrew. "You saved this project," she said to him, her gaze unwavering. "If we'd built it the way I had it drawn, it would have failed. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it would have, and people would have paid the price." The boy shifted slightly, still not smiling, still not gloating. "I just didn't want it to happen again," he murmured. Her throat tightened. She took a slow breath. "Then you've done more than most professionals ever do. You've prevented something before it happened. That takes more than skill. It takes courage." The murmurs around them grew. A few workers clapped quietly, others nodded, their expressions a mix of admiration and disbelief. She glanced around at the gathered faces, then back to him. "You belong here," she said, "not as a spectator, not as a novelty. You see things others don't. That's rare. The boy's eyes flickered, the faintest spark of something, acknowledgment, maybe even trust. She stepped back from the table. I'll talk to the board, she added. You'll be part of this build, officially, if you want it. For the first time, his lips curved, just barely. Okay, he said. The moment hung there, a quiet truce, a mutual respect forged in the heat of the sight. She knew the crew would talk about this for weeks, maybe months. The day the lead engineer stepped down, and a boy in a yellow hard hat saved a penthouse from becoming a future disaster. She turned, walking toward the site office, the weight of her decision settling on her shoulders. Each step felt strange, lighter in some ways, heavier in others. Behind her, the boy stayed at the table, tracing the lines of the floor plan again, already thinking of what else could be better. By the time she disappeared from view, the foreman approached the boy. "Kid," he said, shaking his head in disbelief, "I've been doing this 20 years, and I've never seen anything like that." The boy shrugged, eyes still on the paper. "It's not about being right," he said quietly. "It's about making sure no one gets hurt." And with that, he kept studying, as if the world outside the blueprint didn't exist. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the unfinished towers. Somewhere, a crane swung into place, steel beams rising higher. But here, at this table, on this day, something else had been built, something invisible but lasting. Not concrete, not steel. Respect. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. And let us know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We love hearing from all of you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.